good.
If I get the email with the documents.
Yes, yeah, I see. Sorry. Okay, not to worry. We've only just this moment.
She won the argument.
Which argument?
So that she didn't like her. So
She's seen it quite a lot lately.
Yeah.
She's not quite old enough to be.
Well,
I see. It's a lot of the
yeah.
But was there an argument with Ji Young?
No, with Gia, our daughter Gia.
Yeah, but I mean, Gia mentioned, but what about Ji
So,
Young?
and then one of us had to stay with Gia.
Oh, I see. So if Gia had come, then all three of you would have come. So there goes these ideas I had about the authoritarian status of the father in with the Korean wife and his half Korean daughter. But clearly, it's I'm mistaken.
She's in charge.
So I think we finished verse 12. I think.
We've got one more verse, I think, to do.
Yeah. So then at verse 12, they put Hasarugadamedi Chittang Yasanakampati. So Kampirikam Kemang Etam Tamang. But we can test whether we did it or not.
Test.
Well, what does asokam mean?
We had a circle.
Griefless.
Griefless.
Yeah, both the by Jesus.
Without.
From the and what's the root?
What?
The root.
The roof.
The Vedic root.
Yes. Sock.
Is it
Sock or something.
Well, it's shush. Shush. Actually, let me just explain that. I forgot to bring my own green and red pens, so I'm going to confess a crime. When I got here and found that I'd forgotten my own proper pens, a rude something made a rude word come out. Anyway,
If nobody else heard it, I don't think so.
I was on my own.
That's an around something. He did. He breaks sealer and it affects nobody else. Then that is higher sealer. Not ordinary sealer.
So I was following a higher sealer by doing something.
No, you failed the higher sealer.
I failed the higher sealer.
But you didn't fail sealer because there was nobody there to hear.
Okay, I failed the higher. No, I take that.
What about confessing it? Does that bring him back up again? If he confesses it, does that bring him back up again?
Hey, maybe. Double merit, maybe.
This is a point that's well worth remembering because you'll encounter it so many times that you get a root that ends in a ch or a j. When you make a verbal noun out of it, the ch changes to a k and the j changes to a g. As you know, my favorite example is the root yuj. So it makes its verbal noun strengthen verbal, and that usually becomes yoga. That's the word, that's our same word that's come into English. And the shuch in Sanskrit becomes shoka. And in Pali, exactly as you would expect, because Pali doesn't have a sh, it becomes just soka. And if you are asoka, in Sanskrit, ashoka, you are griefless. Bear in mind,
Griefless,
sorry?
Griefless.
Griefless,
Without grief.
with the negation prefix a, which is the same as the Greek prefix a.
It's just to grieve then.
To grieve.
To grieve.
when you have an a in front of the word, it sometimes negates the word, just like non, like in Greek, atomic, anaerobic. Or something. It also sometimes means without something. So asoka doesn't mean non-grief, it means griefless.
Right, okay.
And if you are a dhamma, it's rather like talking in English about a godless person. The person is a dhamma, is without the dhamma, rather the same tone as the English godless man. So
So just to go back to this rule, it was rules for what, for verbs with the, so verbs with a U in the middle?
oh no, it's the ending in a ch
Or a
or
j.
a j.
Okay,
Right, okay. Why did it tell me that?
Virija, it's rather like Virya, but it's obviously a different word
Oh, it's
altogether, isn't
entirely
it?
different, yeah.
The J and the
Let
Y.
me so the prefix vi is very, very much used. It's the same as the vi in the vipassana, yavatasa, vigadandro. The prefix vi. And, if I get a reputation for being the verbal prefix maniac, it's something I'll be very happy to be branded as, because these verbal prefixes are very, it gives the life and spice to all of these Pali verbs. So the V, actually, the V is, it comes originally from the word dli, meaning two, the number two. And the alternative form is wa. Depending on, I won't bother with the details, it's the dvitva and way, the forms for two as in the number two. Now, what happened is that in the earliest stages of the language, even pre-Vedic, the dvit, meaning two, was put in front of a word to give the idea of splitting in two, the one becomes two, separation, splitting. So vigata, if you want, vigata midho is sleepiness. If you vigata is gone away, therefore you don't have it. You vigata midho, your midho is vigata, has gone away, therefore you are free of it. So you can follow this meaning, the dwi, separated in two, the splitting in twain and between the two, there has this meaning. Now, this is the same word, of course, that has come into English as two. In fact, in Swedish, for example, it's pronounced två, but it has still the sound there. In German, it's zwei. So this twa, two, and twain, so we still write the word, even though it's silent in speech. It's from that same root as dwi. Now, here's the interesting twist. And if you just learn this one, it will have a huge and sudden increase in the ability to retain the vocabulary. What happened is that in Sanskrit and Pali, when it was used with the meaning of separation or splitting, the D dropped out, leaving the prefix V alone. But it originally meant in two, and also there are penetration splitting. Vipassana, passana from passatis, vipassana is looking into something. That is, you're splitting the surface apart and looking below the surface. Vipassana. Now, even more entertaining. What happened when the same method came into Latin? It dropped the V. So the V of Sanskrit and Pali, and the Dutch also acquired an S, and also sometimes we have D. So the die, the D, the dis, so many words in English have this prefix, the idea of getting rid of something away or apart. Secare is to cut, to dissect something is to cut open, cut apart. Aggressus, a step, to digress is to step away. Vert, meaning to turn, to divert, to turn away. And it's very productive. That word in linguistics means you could carry on making new words out of it. Even in modern computers, you debug a computer, get rid of its bugs. So this, the D and the dis and the die of the Latin, the same origin of the V, all from this original Proto-Indo-European tui root, meaning two, isn't it? Number two. Yes, so what happened to sin? In fact, in Latin, two is duo. But what happened was that when it was used as this separative prefix, in Latin kept the D but lost the V. Sanskrit and Pali kept the V but lost the D. But the underlying idea was the same. And in the Proto-Indo-European, it was the dwa prefix, the dwi. So many words will become transparent when you have that. So viraja, raja means dust. So if you are viraja, you are dustless. And it's raja, that same word is used when Brahma was persuading the Buddha to teach. And there are those with but little dust in their eyes who will see as aparajai, having little dust.
We don't actually use the word dustless, do we? But it's an interesting way of putting it.
Well, say dust free.
Without.
And we can go on inventing words. We can be quite prolific in our inventive words. In fact, one of my favorite inventive words is from the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. So Vattana in Sanskrit is Vartana. The Latin root is vertere, as in to revert, divert, convert, evert, invert. It's all the same vert root, meaning to turn. Latin does not have the word provert, but we can invent it. You provert, you roll it forward, turn it forward. And that is the pravartana, which is in Pali pavatana, setting in motion, rolling it forward. So we can freely invent these words for the purpose of understanding Pali, and also if we allow ourselves to invent these words, just quietly between ourselves within these walls, we can often invent words that will exactly reflect, etymologically reflect what they were in Sanskrit and Pali. Yes, proverting the wheel, turning it forward.
See, just for me, I mean, this sounds quite practical, but it could be profound as well, is that with dust, it keeps coming back all the time. You can clean it away, but it comes back, and to be actually dustless is a very pure, it's almost like a special kind of state, that it doesn't, no stain comes back, no dust comes back, it's free. Anyway, leave it at that. Don't need to say anymore. It's because when you dust anything, I know how to do this next week, the week after, it never stops, but to be dustless means you're in a different place,
It does indeed, but sadly, when we make ourselves dustless, it's a bit like making the house dustless. A short while later,
Okay.
you've done all of it again. There's some viraja, by the way. It's from the root ranj, which originally meant color. And if you've heard of virati, and anurati, virati, if you are virata, you are free of attachment. If you are anurata, you are colored accordingly. It's the same rajas rakta. It came into, it's turned up in English as rage. But rajas and rage, etymologically, that's the same word. And in Sanskrit and Pali, it covered the meaning of the colouring, and then a colouring that obscured the purity of something, and that was the meaning of rajas. Actually, originally meant a coloured mist or fog, which prevented you seeing things clearly, and then by extension was used to be dust. And kema, I've done a note of it on the text that you have. It's from the little sheet, to inhabit new kema. Originally meant one's home, one's place of safety. So it was both a noun and an adjective. So if you're kema or kemin, then you are in a place of safety. Sukhitova kemino, sukhinova kemino puntu, sabasvata bhavantu, sukhitata. So that's the plural. Kema, safety. Kemin, one who is in a place of safety. And the plural kemino that we have in our Metta Sutta.
This rage, just come back to the rage again, and Raj and being misty, and is that where the red mist comes from? Is that the same thing? When some people who just can't control their temper are sometimes explained as seeing the red mist.
That's right, yeah, because this clearly was known about thousands of years ago and was used as the analogy. So it's like this coloured mist that, and we have the expression seeing red, don't we? It's a coloured mist that colours your emotion, colours what you do. It is that same underlying idea. So asokam virajam kemam etam mangalam tamam. these three adjectives in the first pada of the second line. A pada is a half line, by the way. It means a foot. Why do they all end in an
Basically, I guess it's qualifying that this person is, or the mind of this,
Yes, that's the project, yeah, because they're all adjectives.
Hmm.
Neuter singulars qualifying the noun chittam, which is a neuter noun in the first line. So the chittam yasana kampati, whose chitta does not tremble, the chitta being asokam dirajam kema. Oh yes, that was correct.
yes.
So I'll just read it through slowly now. Just try to let the Pali come into you as I read it slowly. I want to just read all the prose. Puttasalokadhammehi chittang yasana kampati asokam dirajang kemang etam mangalam tamam. Did you tell us last time, Peter, you had this, did you tell us last time about the alternative interpretation of the Logadhamma?
It was the Nepalese
Worldly winds.
Nepalese monk who said
That's right.
in Thailand. Oh, that the 8 worldly winds. He said that's in the Mangala Sutta. So I thought, well, I must look that up, and then found that he decided we're going to do the Mangala Sutta when I got back from Thailand. So, and then there it was. So he said to me that the Lokadhammas are the 8 worldly winds, the pairs of pleasure and pain, loss and gain, praise and blame, and fame and infamy. 4 pairs.
Right. So actually, I may have mentioned Bhikkhu in his translation didn't actually mention that point. Yeah, I think he just translated in a more general way. Worldly matters, worldly affairs. It could be construed either way, but I think the Nepalese monk you mentioned is probably right there.
I think I found it, Googled it as well to try and find references to it, and found a translation that explained it as these 8.
You following the Nepalese monks' interpretation?
Yeah, vicissitudes it was referred to.
Yeah.
So I
But
think it's
specifically with
actual.
reference to the 4 pairs, or just
Yeah.
right. Yeah. And Dhammehi, what's the ehi ending?
I printed this thing off today, which has got masculine nouns, masculine plural, feminine nouns and feminine plural, and the same for neuter nouns and neuter plural. Ehi seems to be instrumental neuter. And neuter plural.
It's instrumental. It is instrumental plural, but it's the same for neuter and
accusative.
Masculine. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yes, accusative.
Yeah. So I would just remember that the neuter nouns and masculine nouns differ only in the nominative and the accusative. All cases after that, they would be indistinguishable. So dhamma usually is a masculine, so dhammehi. If you have chitta, for example, that's a neuter noun, but the instrumental plural would be chittehi. It's in the nominative that they differ. You have chittam, but dhammo.
In the first line, is it the person who's not, is it being untouched by the vicissitudes of the life or the,
That's right.
the,
So the person himself is touched by the vicissitudes, but chittam, his chitta does not tremble. So these things happen to him externally, but the chitta remains untrembling, unmoved.
Kapanti does not tremble.
Nakampati,
Does
yes.
not tremble, that's nice, isn't it? Tremble. And remains dustless and proofless and secure.
Just before we move on,
Yeah.
James, Kemma, Aya Kemma,
It's the
the,
same
the
word.
nun,
Yeah.
and Aya would stand for what?
No.
It's that seems to be a colloquial shortening of Arya,
Okay.
Arya, meaning noble.
Okay. Living in a noble way.
Yeah. And you have also just a rather, I think it's even kind of rather colloquial, even kind of offhand or impolite, just even, because Arya, noble, feminine form Arya, with a long R. The vocative of feminine is a long R is A, so Arya would be, oh, noble lady, which is a polite way of addressing a lady. And colloquially, that became kind of Ajay, Arya, Ajay in colloquial speech, and shortened further just to J, oi you, which is all I saying, oi you, which is a J, that traces back to Arya, oh noble lady. It's a way of summoning a girl in a not particularly polite way. If anyone says J, impolite, you can call you Arya, but not J.
Good to know these things, isn't it?
Good to know these things. So, anyway, if you want to go back to verse 12 at any time, that's fine. Move on to verse 13, the last verse. So, Eta isani katwana sabbatam aparajita sabbatta suttingat chanti tante sammangalam damanti. Begin first with the T at the very end. You may have noticed that many of our suttas and our chants finish off with a T. The T is an abbreviation of the Sanskrit iti, meaning thus. The same as iti piso bhagava. Iti piso, thus indeed is he. And when it's used at the end of a sentence or end of a word group, it's like unquote. You don't open the quote, you close the quote. So T unquote means this is the, when you say T at the end of a sutta or a chant, it means that you are announcing now this is the end of the sutta. So I was chanting not my own words I've heard, T, thus, as in I have heard thus. And also it's just if you want to bring up a subject, you want to talk about a subject. Somebody wanted to ask the Buddha about bhava, about becoming. What's all this business about becoming, O Blessed One? And he said, bhavo ti, becoming ti, meaning this is the subject matter, becoming, unquote. I want to talk about this thing that I've just put in quotes. Notice that when it's at the end of a sentence or after a word, it shortens to T. When it stands at the beginning of a sentence, we give it the full Sanskrit form, iti, as in iti piso bhagava. So etadisani katavana sabbatama parajita. So etadisani. It's from the root British. You see this quite a lot, and you have madisa, tadisa, etadisa. Now the root British, meaning to see, it makes one of the ways it makes a noun is Drisha in Sanskrit and Disa in Pali. So Disa means appearance, what something is like. And Eta Disa means that having that appearance or being such and such a thing. Now from Madisa means like me. Friendly greeting among Hindu, refer to somebody as, just call him, you don't know his name, because Madisa means like me, oh, you who are like me. It's a friendly way of addressing someone. So me like, Madisa, etadisa, that like, meaning such and such a thing. And etadisani then is things like that, such things. So etadisani katvana. So having done things like that, having done such things means if you are in a position in your life where you have done all of the things that are referred to in the Mangala Sutta, then there you are. That is your Mangalam Uttamam. That is your highest blessing. So Kattavana. So well-known root Greek meaning to do. The absolute form having done is in Pali, in Sanskrit, Kritva. And in Pali that becomes Katva. But Katva, having done, Disva, having said, he stepped up to the Blessed One, and Upasankamitva, having stepped up, Katva, having done. In Pali, but not in Sanskrit, you often can add a na to the end of it, so Katavana. But the meaning, there's no distinction of meaning. Katva, Katwana have exactly the same meaning. It just means having done. In Sanskrit, etadrishani katva, having done such things. Pali etadisani katva or etadisani katwana with the same meaning. Sabbatam aparachita. Sabba, we know means all. Sabbe Buddha. And where you see the ending atta in Pali, it's nothing at all. It's just coincidentally the same as the word atta, meaning a goal, as in Karanim, atta kusalena. This is a different word. It's actually atra in Sanskrit. It's just a suffix of place. So sarvatra in Sanskrit, sarvatra, and sabbata in Pali just means everywhere. So the ka at the end means where. So sabbata, everywhere. It also means in all ways. So sabbatam aparajita, in all ways undefeated, and undefeated by the defilement.
That's the Aparajita, undefeated.
Aparajita.
Harit.
Okay, that's aparajita, it's the root, G. It's very simple. The root G meaning to defeat or to conquer. And it makes a verbal noun, jaya. We have to cry in modern Hindi, it's Jay, so Jai Hind, victory to India, Jai Hind. The past participle is jidda. Meaning conquered. In fact, I think we have an Indian lady who comes here called
Ajita.
Ajita. She might call herself Ajita. Ajita correctly means the unconquered, the defeated. With the prefix para tends to have a kind of just an intensive meaning. So parajita, totally smashed. But this is aparajita, so unconquered. So sabattam aparajita. The insertion of the M here, by the way, is purely euphonic. In prose, you tend to see sabatta aparajita. But you often find just an M slipped in for euphonic purposes. So sabattam aparajita, undefeated in all ways. And again, at the beginning of the second line, it's the same word, sabatta, sabatta, everywhere and in all ways, suttim gachanti. They go to either safely, well-being. Yeah. So gachanti, the anti-ending is the third person plural. They go, like gacchami, we all know. Gacchami, gacchasi, gacchati. Buddham saranam gacchami. Gachanti means they go. So the same nt ending that you find in Latin for third person plural, and indeed in modern French as well, you can change that same nt ending for third person plural. So sabatta suttim gachanti. Suttim is actually quite a fun word.
Suttim.
Suttim is the root is us, meaning to be. Sanskrit asti, Pali ati. This is the third person singular, he, she, or it is. Cognate with the German, Latin est, German ist, our word is. So, however, also a much rarer word, and in compound with su. Let's do this in red for the Sanskrit. So su in suasti, this act is asti now actually becomes a noun, means well-being. Su, a well-known prefix su, opposite of du, as in dukkha, sukha. Su asti means well-being. We get an u followed by an a becomes a verb. So in Sanskrit, we get swasti. Swasti. And in Pali, it has two forms. It can become suvati or sutti. So it's swasti, suvati, or sutti in Pali, just well-being. And in Thailand, where you get an S either at the end of a word or before another consonant, the S becomes pronounced as a T. That's why in Thai this is swati, swatika, swati. So it's that same word. So the swati greeting in Thailand means well-being upon you. Very interestingly, among the Brahmins, when you had an auspicious occasion, like, for example, a birth or a marriage, you would have somebody come along to give the swasti blessing. And to give that blessing for well-being and everything good upon the new baby or the newly married couple. And the name of the Brahmin who did it was the swastika. And that word originally meant the Brahmin priest who came to give the blessing. But then by extension, it came to mean the sign of well-being, the sign or the mark of well-being. So when it was taken over, hijacked in Germany in the 1930s, they were actually taking over what was a very holy and religious symbol. And in fact, the swastika is the same swastika that you see in temples. That is the sign of well-being.
Yeah. See, they do those chalk patterns on the ground a lot, don't they? Festival time.
With the
And flowers, the chalk patterns, the swastika in India.
That's right, yeah. So it had a perfectly respectable origin.
Coming from this word, suti.
It's what you know as cultural appropriation. Misappropriated by the Nazis.
Is that word for well-being? Paul uses that
It
word
is,
a lot,
yes.
doesn't he?
Suits, well, us
In
just-
Thai.
Sorry?
In Thai, the word for well-being is very similar, is it?
It is. I think
Same word.
depending whether you're a man or a woman, this is swatika, swatika. If you're a woman, you end it with a ka. If you're a man, you say ka. So swatika, swatika. But it's that same word. It's just the Thai pronunciation of it. A lot of the words do get a little bit mangled in Thai because they, I'm sorry to say mangled, no, there's quite a lot of phonetic mutations the words go through in Thai. For example, acharya becomes acharya, so the Sanskrit means teacher becomes pronounced in Thai as acharya.
So Ajahn means teacher, actually, does it?
It does, yeah. In fact, it's from the word achara, meaning conduct. And the acharya is the conduct man, the man who tells you what correct conduct is. So in Pali, in Sanskrit, acharya, and then in Pali, acharya. Acharya and Pali acharya. And so many things happen that when it goes into Thai. Firstly, they will often miss out a couple of syllables at the end of a word. For example, they have the word Buddha, but you'll often hear the Thais pronouncing it as just put. If you hear Thai saying put, that's just the word for Buddha. It's very frequent. So the acharya, then they drop off the ya or the iya at the end, which would then become achar. But under the rules of Thai phonetics, the final r gets pronounced as a n, so it becomes achan. But another rule of Thai phonetics, when you get ch sound in between two vowels, it becomes a j. So from acharya, it becomes acharya. Yeah.
what is it, Charles Quinn, who's here, said I was a May Ajahn. Or my Ajahn, I'm not sure. I think he was trying to say something. I was mother teacher. Oh, that's quite nice. My Ajahn.
May.
May Ajahn.
Mother
Okay.
teacher.
What's a mayor, John?
May's mother.
May Ajahn.
So it's made cheap.
Oh, right, is it?
Yeah,
It's the same.
Yeah.
So you were saying he was a mother teacher?
No, he said I was.
Oh, sorry, you were, sorry.
Ajahn, May Ajahn.
So the mayor, John.
Mm.
I hadn't called that.
I thought Chi was life, so I thought Mei Chi was mother of life. But Paul corrected me. Apparently, Chi is separation or splitting away. So it's splitting away from worldly things, I guess. Mei Chi. I thought, I mean, it just sounded to me like mother of life. I knew what it meant, and then so he said, no, it's the Chi is actually not life in this case. So you know they've got all these different vowels and consonants, and you need to know which tone means
Which
what.
one was it? Was there
I've
five
got
tones?
the wrong one.
So I wonder even whether that word, the Chi one, has a Pali origin. They don't all, of course. It sounds like it could be because there's Jiva, which means alive or life, or in Hinduism, a soul, but clearly not that, because I can't think what word it might be if it means separate. The word Mai is in Mai Chi, again, that looks Thai rather than Pali. So,
But I guess maybe that doesn't go all the way back. The Meishis are they quite a recent.
Modern.
is that right?
I think I've read that somewhere. I don't think it's not the
They probably created that after the bhikkhus or the bhikkhunis ceased, I guess.
Yeah,
It's not the Kiku's, it's a more recent.
because it just doesn't sound as if it has a Pali origin.
Yeah.
And of course, the word pla does sound purely Thai. So my Chipa is probably purely Thai name.
Means fish. La. So it's Mei Chi fish.
Is that right? Pla means fish.
When I was a volunteer teaching at the university, I'd always ask the students what their names were, but so long the names that you just go with their nicknames instead. And one of them was called, it wasn't Gop, because Gop means frog, it was something else. And I asked him what it meant, and he said spit.
Spit.
So that was his name.
Odd thing to call something. Well, they have this kind of nickname thing, and it's often based on something about the baby when it's born. So you get very odd names like kind of oak, or kind of, I don't know, roast pig or something.
Roast pig.
But they're not seen as being kind of negative. So
There's probably a story behind it.
there's some one might not like to have, but say you can be introduced to Mr. Oak. That just means that his nickname's Oak.
Right.
That's
But I suspect that my Pla, I suspect that wasn't a childhood nickname because she would have been given a new monastic name, would she?
No, it was carried forward into when she became a Mei Chi. So she was called Pla before, and then became Mei Chi Pla.
So it's not a monastic given name.
No,
And Pla means
fish.
sorry?
Fish.
Fish, right.
Fish.
Oh yes, of course. Yes.
Mei Chi fish.
Of course, when I heard it pronounced, it wasn't just Pla, but something Pla.
Too difficult.
Sabatta sutting gachanti, they go to well-being in all ways. Tante sammangala uttamanti. Desam is a genitive plural, it means of them. And you have, and we see it in several of our transcripts, that there's some sabasam. So that is the masculine and neuter genitive plural. I'm not sure whether it's happened yet, but in the chant, the Mangalagatha, where we the names of the Buddha and the 8 arahants, and there's the alternative one where we have the female arahants.
Yeah.
So actually, I did write to Rob to correct his chant sheet, but when we're talking about Sabbe, that would be the masculine form, but if we're just talking about the ladies, it has to be Sabba, the feminine, and Sabbasam, all of them, Dasam. So tan that, desam of them is the highest Mangala. So Itadi Sanikatvana, having done something, if you're a person who in your past has already done something, Itadi Sani, Sabatam Aparajita, undefeated in all ways. In other words, I presume this means not dragged back down by the hindrances or the defilements. Then those people, Gachanti Sabbata Suttim, those people go to well-being. Note that this word Gata literally means gone. It's the past participle of the verb gun to go. But it often means in a state of something when used in both Sanskrit and Pali. So Sugata, just not, it means literally good gone, means gone into a state of goodness. And sometimes that has the meaning of just being in that state. A bit like the English phrase, woe begone, is the same kind of, you've gone into and therefore are now in that state. So Suttim Gachanti, they go into or exist in a state of well-being. Etan desam, that of them is the Mangalam Uttamam, that is the unequaled, their highest blessing. Uttama, our English word utmost, is a direct etymological derivative of Uttama, just as Uttara, outer, Uttara and our word outer, and Uttama and our word utmost are etymologically the same word. So that is the utmost supreme Mangala. Might it be time for a brief tea break?
There was some melon there that was left, which is just nice now. Otherwise, we might have to jettison it. I'm going to have some anyway.
Let's have a brief tea break.
Yeah.
Just off the recording for the break. Pause recording. Sorry, missed a little bit there. So samyanch, together, going and filled, coming together, filled together. What has happened in Sanskrit is this. First of all, sorry, boring bit of Sanskrit phonetics here. No word in Sanskrit is allowed to end in a double consonant. Two consonants. One of them has got to go. And in this case, it is the na that goes, so it becomes samyanch. Next rule, Sanskrit words on their own can't end in a ch. The stem can, the stem form or the root form can, but when it becomes a real word, a real live word, that ch becomes a k, and that's why it's split pens. That is why samyak becomes in Sanskrit samyak. So although the anch has become an ak, it is that same root, but now because of the rules of grammar, has become an ak. So folding together. And again, under the rules, the general phonetic mutation from Pali to Sanskrit, samyak, becomes samma. So you see that the translation right, right view and right obedience of the Noble Eightfold Path. And you can't actually say that is a wrong translation. It's not a wrong translation, but it only gives you a part of the story. There is no one word in English that, I don't think we ever seen the word in English that would encapsulate the entire round of meaning, the rounded, ordered harmony. Because that's why we're all here studying Pali, precisely so that we can see what it really means from the
Folding together, harmonizing.
That's right.
Fitting
Yes.
together,
Yes.
in the right way, sort of, falling into place, no?
Yes. All of that meaning rolled into one. So your sammaditthi,
Fitting.
which we fitting is it's a view that's in harmony with the Dhamma. It's right, it's in harmony, it's fitting. It's not just that's right, that's wrong, tick or a cross on your homework. It fits in with the Dhamma, fits in with the holy life.
Yeah, you mentioned it before. You said this before. I should have remembered. I had the feeling for it, but I didn't. Kind of put it into words.
So this is with to go to bend,
Yes.
literally with to go to bend.
Coming together, coming together and, as it were, meshing, merging. You can imagine that the imagery goes folding together, making a harmonious structure, as it were. Like fitting together.
Being flexible as you go. Being
It's
able
not
to-
absolute.
There's that
It's relative.
yes, there's that kind of subtext there as well, isn't there? There's the that root embodies the idea of a flexibility as well, which is why it is, we have it in English as our ankle, the flexibility of
rather than riling against something, quite flexible and easygoing. And
Well, I was thinking of more this
Right.
absoluteness of what is right. In the sense, I mean, that there's that maybe it's a very to do with linguistics, but it might be a Western view. It's either right or it's wrong. It's good or it's bad. But if you have a notion of right speech, or we call it that, but it's speech or seeing that's fitting, harmonious, and sort of blending together. That's it, isn't it? Or as you said, sort of folding into the Dhamma, is it? Or is it into itself, if you know what I mean? If it's referring to conduct, for example, you could have appropriate conduct, fitting conduct.
And the idea of appropriateness is there. I mean, for example, with right speech, it's speech that is wisely appropriate and you wisely blend with the occasion of that speech.
Lord Paul Sidera is talking about the chanting practice. Those terms, he's saying like it's you have to harmonize.
Harmonise.
Yeah.
That's right. You blend in with the other voices. That's right. You said it's a practice, or it can be a way of recognizing anatta. In that no one self is predominating, and that the experience of harmonizing is a kind of way of understanding anatta in a way. It isn't just about harmony, it's about the experience of being at one and losing your own ego. He said that's it, it's a way of letting go of ego in the chanting. But I mean, it has that quality maybe of summer, summer chanting.
Which
When it
was, by the way, is
sounds
entirely
right.
different from the word samatha,
Yeah.
the essay was just coincidental there.
Mhm.
You do know what samatha is in Sanskrit, don't you, Veronica?
It's very similar. Throughout.
Yeah, there's
It's
just
a
one
term
difference.
rather
In
than-
Sanskrit, it begins with a sh.
Sha.
There's
Sham.
shamatha.
Sham.
So samatha, otherwise they are identical
Sham.
words.
Yeah. I mean, there is a mother known as called Samita. He's down in Letchworth. And someone said that means Samatha as well, but he goes by the name of Samita.
Samita.
Samita, yeah. But never mind, that's only taking us somewhere else. Just in the Sri Lankan path. But don't worry. But I mean, someone just said it means the same to me.
Oh, that would mean made calm. Okay, because you have shamatha, you have the verb in Sanskrit, shamayati means to make calm. And in Pali that would be sameti. And the past participle of that would be samita.
Samita.
So that would be made calm as the past participle of the
Oh, right, to say that, but that's fine.
causative verb.
Mm.
By the way, some then e, now ignoring the anch at the end, the root e makes more than one verbal noun. One way of making a verbal noun is the aya. So ud e to up come to arise is udaya. And samudaya, the arising. Some aya means as the Mahasamaya Sutta. That is the sum plus the verbal noun of e literally going together, merging together. And it has two meanings. One is an assembly of people. So the Mahasamaya Sutta is the sutta of the Great Assembly. The assembly of human beings and all beings. It also means a samaya, it also means a time or an occasion, like a conjoncture in French, a juncture, a coming together of circumstances is a time. And many of the suttas begin ekasmin samaye, at one time. The Buddha was saying as such and such. That's the locative. So ego samayo is one time. Ekasmin samaye, locative, at one time. So that's the other meaning of the word samaya.
You keep hearing these words, then you now I'm getting to attach meanings to them or
Yeah, well,
feelings to them.
my mission in life here is to make you enter into the words, so you can feel them from the inside without even having to translate into English. So this root e, by the way, it's the same as the Latin word ire, meaning to go, and ex means out, and it from that root ire means he goes. So exit is actually the origin. It's a verb in Latin. Means he, she, or it goes out. Exit is that same e. And the samaya coming together, of course in Latin it has a sexual meaning, coitus is coitus, coming together. So coitus and samaya actually etymologically the same word that's got a restricted meaning in Latin. So for coming together then, sorry?
It's interesting how the Latin comes close sometimes, doesn't it?
It does
to the Sanskrit. Yeah, they seem to be
very-
very different cultures,
Yeah.
different worlds.
Well, but
Yeah.
it's Latin. I mean, Vedic and Latin both come about 4.5, approximately 4,000 BC. There was no distinction. It was what we call a Proto-Indo-European language being spoken, and the tribal migration into there was those who finished up in Italy, the Latin speakers, and then the Greeks and then the languages that became the Slavonic languages, Germanic languages, in the southeast to the Indo-Iranian, which we have in, which
Isn't
became
there quite a lot
Vedic,
of-
and we have then ancient Western to modern Persian.
There seem to be lots of parallels in the Vedas to the Icelandic, Nordic epics and deities. There are similarities. I've seen comparisons between Thor and Indra,
Oh, yes.
thunderbolt wielding,
Yeah.
controlling the weather. Also, some of the ritual practices of the Druids and the ways in which they set out altars for whatever sacrifices were meant to be very similar. I've seen, I've seen studies and tried to draw parallels between these different elements, because in fact they may well have been more closely allied culturally at some time in the past.
Well, they go back about 6,000 years, and they were. So we have the Arya, which means, is commonly translated as noble, the Arya Satchani. And they call themselves the Aryas, the ones who migrated southeastwards into the Ganges Valley. But they call themselves that long before they reached them, which is why we get Iran. It's that same word. And it's turned up across the water. There's an Aaron and Erin. It's the same
connection.
Aaron, Iran, the Arya. Originally originally the same word.
Slightly unrelated, but I was very amazed. I go to Bremen in North Germany quite a lot for work, and they have the famous musicians of Bremen, a statue, which is like you probably seen it. It's like a donkey, a dog, a cat, and a cockbull perched on each other. And there's the Brothers Grimm fairy tale of the four. When I was young, the tree was a young tree. And the next one is a hare. He says, "Oh, when I was young, the tree was just a sapling." And finally, the partridge says, "When I was young, the tree, I pooed out the seed."
Oh.
So then they kind of decide to work together harmoniously, with the elephant at the bottom supporting the other ones and the eldest in the position of honor at the top. The cockerel, but the weakest one. And then the Buddha says, "And I was the cockerel." So this statue in Bremen has a so it's a partridge image to talk.
But essentially from the
same story, but
the
it's
roots
not-
and the different story.
The cockerel at the top outside the temple, which is the Buddha.
Is it?
In fact, in the previous line.
Oh, interesting. We should end up there.
Yeah,
Well, there's probably more examples
very
like
deep.
that, isn't
Isn't
there?
there many of Aesop's fables as well that directly traceable back via Iran to Indian origins?
It's just kind of spread. Because,
Yeah.
the Grimm, they just collected these kind of fairy tales that were around.
Yeah.
Adapted into that,
Yeah.
cooked the animals that were there. Lovely story that.
Yeah,
I like that, turning it around the other way.
quite nice to see. My wife has a like a model of this statue from when she travelled Europe a long time
Is that
ago.
right?
It's like, it's actually a Buddhist statue.
Actually, from the conversations we've had, I think we need to have a bit more formal grammar. Anyway, there's going to be plenty in the other course that I'm starting in September, wherever it course will be, the teaching materials will be made available to be recorded on Zoom. So the grammar will be put there in a formal way. Let's start then on our Ratana Sutta.
Just tell us a little bit about the overall theme of it. So I've been very familiar with the metta and the Mangala Sutta for a long, long time, but I just haven't got an overall feeling for the Ratana Sutta because I haven't heard it as much or know much about it.
Yeah, I think the story was there was some locations, village or town, which had been, do you remember the background of this one? That had been badly afflicted by some pestilence or disease, natural
Big
disaster.
starvation, a very, very big like natural disaster, and everyone was starving. People, terrible, terrible circumstance. Everybody was very upset. So all the chitta was shaking a lot, all these people. So then this was recited kind of I think it's kind of directed to all the people and all the devas in the surrounding area, and kind of I can't remember the detail. It's very kind of saying like with confidence and Buddha down Sangha. I think that's right, isn't it? It's very kind of just kind of setting up like the qualities of the Buddha and the Dhamma and the Sangha, and asking the devas to kind of listen, and then it did work. So
That's right. I think there was also the sense that the devas had been out of sorts and a bit angry with the town as well. There was just disharmony there. And Buddha saying let all listen, let us all live in love and harmony, all listen. Sunantu, may they hear, may the listen occurs in that first verse.
It's the jewels, isn't it?
Yes, in Sanskrit it is Ratna, with just R-A-T-N-A, but in Pali an extra A gets in, so it becomes Ratana.
It was great hearing the background there, because that's what's going on now, isn't it? You just described it sort of going on.
It's when I was asking Mum Prasidia about my mum's ill, and the kind of disharmony and the stress and the shaking chitta, which we got at the end of the last one,
Trembling.
the word, the trembling chitta, not the steady one. I think he was saying something about this, when he said that if you practice calming oneself, then other people can feel that. I asked somebody else, and they mentioned this. So, this is the way to kind of get things steady. Even in the face of illness, then people can kind of get really steady.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
very
wanting us
like
to know the
will not
content.
attempt to improve. That's absolutely fine. So just recite the first verse then. Yani bhutani samagatani bhummani vayani va antarike sabbeva bhuta sumana bhavantu atopi sakaccha sunantu bhasitam. Now,
So why do you repeat it?
why is what repeated?
So you put it twice on
Okay, sorry.
but with a slight change on the of the eye.
Okay, let me explain it. Quite a while ago, one of the students in the series of courses I've done, the Buddhist Society of Sanskrit and Pali, he was doing both, and we were introducing the Devanagari script, and so he said, when you're preparing these texts for us, will you please just put it in Devanagari, even though it's Pali, put it in Devanagari script, just give us a bit of extra practice. Yeah, it's a very simple thing to do. Fine, I'll do that. So that's in the Devanagari script. I'm coming to your exact question now.
Yeah.
Now, there is the transliteration, 2 lots of transliteration below it. The top, there's not much difference between them in this one and other ones that are in Sanskrit, it's even more still. The first one, in the first box, it very, very exactly mirrors the way it's written in the Devanagari script. In the second box, it just so happens that here there's very little difference between them, but the second box is kind of divided up a little bit of punctuation. Let's see. Let's see whether this is. Anyway, so the first one just very exactly mirrors how the Devanagari script is written, and the second box, which is the one don't bother about the top 2 boxes.
Okay.
So just look at the text box, or the third text box,
Yeah.
which is the second revised text box. If you are interested, if, for example, if you look at a topi halfway along the second line.
Yes,
so maybe we does
okay,
someone
yeah,
a topi, it's because in the Devanagari script it's written as if it were one word.
Yeah.
Whereas see in the text box below, topi, they are in fact two words. So the first one simply reflects the spelling conventions of the Devanagari. You will be relieved to hear that you can completely ignore that for the purposes of learning Pali. This is just a hangover when that student says, please give it to us in Devanagari as well. So yani it's yani ita. Yani the bhutani samagatani. Bhuta means a being, and it's from the root. Well, please will tell me in unison immediately without any pause what the root of Bhuta is. Bhu, Bhu meaning to be. In fact, it's the same. The U has become an E sound written literally in modern English, but Bhu and B are the same meaning. So, and the Bhuta, in English we say bean, not bead, but the Bhuta is just is a regularly formed participle Bhu plus da, something that has been, but also means therefore something that has come into existence and therefore exists. Interestingly enough, this word Bhuta means both a being, sabbe, sabta, sabbe, Bhuta. It means a being, but also it's sometimes used with its past tense meaning of somebody who has been, and therefore a ghost. And in fact, in modern Hindi, but they drop off to find out the same word bhut is used to mean a ghost, like somebody who has been, but whose spirit returns. But here it has the meaning of a being. Note here, this is one of those words that can be either masculine or neuter without any real difference of meaning. So if you look at the second word in the first verse, Bhutani, in fact, it's really the third word because Yani Ita is written as one with Yani Ita. Bhutani is the neuter plural ending. The ani is in the area. Satchani. So Bhutani, beings. If you look at the second line immediately under that, it's Bhuta, which is exactly the same word, but in the second line it's treated as a masculine, therefore with its plural in a. You get a few words in Pali that are like that. For example, rukha, meaning a tree. In Sanskrit it's neuter, but in Pali it can be either masculine or neuter. So the plural of it can be either rukha, trees, or rukhani, depending whether it's treated as masculine or neuter. So yani is the relative adjective. Yani bhutani, which beings, meaning whatever beings. If it were treated as masculine, it would be ye bhuta, those beings which. So you can either treat it as a neuter, yani bhutani, or as a masculine, ye bhuta. And the idha means here. So yani idha bhutani, whatever here beings, means whatever beings are here. And you often get this merging of vowels, suddenly merging. Yani idha, yani idha, yani idha bhutani, samagatani. Now, coming together, we've just looked at samaya in exactly the same way. Some agata, gum to go, gata, gone, agata, come, as in tathagata, and this some agatani is the neuter plural form, some agatani, who have come together with this ani ending to agree with bhutani. So yani the bhutani samagatani, whatever beings have assembled, have convened here. Stages or levels that you reach. These are the bhumis that you reach. So basically it means ground or the earth. Now, somebody who belongs to the earth, in Sanskrit would be a bhumya. So bhumi becomes bhumya, of the earth, an earth being. In fact, you can also be a tree spirit, according to the Thais, one form of bhumma, of earth spirit. It's not a human spirit, but a tree spirit is classified as one of the bhummas. So the bhumya means belonging to the earth, and therefore by extension means an earth spirit. So the form bhumya in Sanskrit, by regular phonetic mutation, becomes bhumma in Pali. The reason that's happened is that the mya, this consonant cluster here, has resolved itself into a double consonant. So the mya results in a double M, just like dharma in Sanskrit becomes dhamma in Pali. And the next thing is Pali almost always avoids a long vowel before a consonant cluster. So in Sanskrit, it's fine with it, so bhumya in Sanskrit, but it wants to shorten itself in Pali, so bhumma. So bhumya, bhumma are essentially the same word. And it means belonging to the earth. So whatever beings there are here, bhumaniva, whether earthly, belonging to the earth, yaniva antalike, or those which yaniva antalike, those that are in the sky.
So is Puvani just mean terrestrial, or would it actually mean like a noun like earthlings? Or?
If you use the word on its own, you tend to, a certain amount of time, actually Paul Dennison's wife, Aaron, was talking to me about these type bhummas. But there she was talking about earth spirits. So here it could have that meaning, or it could have a broader meaning of whatever beings, whether of the earth or of the sky. I think probably it's referring to earth spirits as opposed to ordinary human beings. Because here this is directed, this verse is directed at non-human beings primarily. In fact, I think in the next verse or two is talking about the offerings that humans bring to you. Please remember the offerings that are made. So whatever beings are assembled here, bhumaniva, whether earthly, meaning the earth spirits, and I think this is intended here to mean non-human beings, yaniva antalike, or which antalike are in the sky, so earth dwellers or sky dwellers.
Which is the word for sky? Is it
Antalika.
and is that just what it means, or is it made up of elements?
Okay, now
I just thought they might not be straight.
you asked for it. Antara
Yeah.
means in between.
In between.
Yes, look at the Latin word inter, between.
Yeah.
So antara in Sanskrit and Pali, and inter in Latin, in between.
Yeah.
Now, think back to the root she, Pali, ki, and kema, meaning a dwelling, a resting place, a dwelling place, which we had in the previous, just in the previous, at the end of the second last verse of the Mangala Sutta. It means a dwelling place in between. I think actually, if I yeah, okay. If you look at that back to the Mangala Sutta, verse 12, Asokam Viritan Kemam. Then Kema, for verse 12, I've done a very full explanation at the bottom of the page of from the baby sheet to dwell or to inhabit. So in Sanskrit, it is antari in the middle, ksha, the dwelling place. So the middle place, because you've got the swarga, the kind of the supreme heaven, you've got the earth and the antarika, in Sanskrit, antariksha, the intermediate dwelling place, which is the word for the sky, because in the mythology, the supreme heaven is beyond the sky, that the sky was the dwelling place in between heaven and earth. So the antariksha, the intermediate dwelling, the middle dwelling, and so that became in Pali antalika. So it's the in between dwelling. So those who are earth, those who not quite heaven, it's the sky.
Sky.
There were three places. There's the swarga, the place of brightness, which is
Place
heaven,
of brightness.
or the brahmaloka,
That's the world.
That's
and
so the Brahma world,
yes.
and there's our terrestrial world, and the in-between level
Right.
is the Antariksha,
Mm.
or Antarika in Pali, the in-between dwelling
But it's
place.
more than just sky then, isn't it?
So that's the point. From the sky, you miss the
It's in
point.
between
But the in-between place, the Antarika.
the
So
supreme.
the Bhumaniva, the terrestrial ones, Yaniva Antalike, all those which are Antalike are in this Antalika and this intermediate one. So it's not suggesting that they're up in the Brahma Loka, it's just there's in the intermediate stage, intermediate place.
Mm. Mm.
The Sabeva Bhuta. Here we see the Bhuta treated as a masculine, so it's masculine plural, Sabeva Bhuta. Note here, it would be normally, you'd split the words Sabbe Eva. So the Eva is an emphatic, Sabbe Eva means all without any exception. So Sabbe Bhuta, all Bhutas, all beings, Sumana Bhavantu. This is the third person imperative. This is quite an easy one to learn because when you get the verbs ending with the T or nti as the indicative form, just make that into an imperative, change the E to U. Sabbe bhuta sukhitata bhavantu, may all beings be happy. Bhavatu Sabbamangalam, may all blessings, Bhavatu Sabbamangalam, may every blessing be. Enti, from E, enti, they go. And we all these nasty things, we chant Vinasam entu, may they go to destruction. Which chant is
May
that?
they go to, sorry.
Which chant is that? Vinasam entu. One of the chants that we do, all these negative factors, Vinasam entu, may they go to destruction. Vinasa.
So the Buddha went clear off.
Hmm?
The end of the Buddha went clear off.
Yes. Is it in the Buddha Mangala?
Yeah.
Okay, Vinasa entu. Vinasa, actually that's one of these, that's why its etymology becomes more and more fun as we go along. Okay, we have this root, this Vedic root, Nash, to perish. Strengthen, to perish, to fall apart. That's the deed that I've been talking about. So that in Sanskrit, it means Vinasha. In Pali, exactly the same, say that it's a certain Vinasha, Vinasa. It frequently happens, very, very frequently happens, that if something is a sh in Sanskrit, it turns up as a k in Latin. But yes, it's not, because we make all beings are happy, no. but you change that to sabbe satta sukhita bhavantu, then that changes a statement of fact into an expression of wish. And may they be happy. And we see that twice here. We see bhavantu, may they be, and sunantu, may they hear. If it were the indicative, sunanti, it was they hear, sunantu, may they hear, may they listen. So sabeva bhuta, all the except from bhuta, sumana bhavantu. May they be literally good-minded, in other words, happy in their mind. The opposite of sumana is dumana. And it makes an abstract noun, domanassa. In the description of what is dukkha, one of the things is domanassa, literally bad-mindedness, unhappiness of mind. So this is sumana, literally good-minded, happy in your mind. So sabeva bhuta, may all beings, sumana bhavantu, may they be happy in their mind. Atopi, and now, ata actually means here, but atopi means and also now hearken to me. It's not exactly translated, but literally here even. It just means and now, and just this is one of the expressions. Hearken, atopi, how I translate that, and also sunantu, may they listen. It's from the root shuru, meaning to hear. And in Pali, so the past participle in Sanskrit from shru is shruta, which means heard. And in Pali that becomes sutta, with a single T, as in evam maya suttam, thus by me heard, thus have I heard. Atopi sakkacha sunantu bhasitam. Ooh, it's gone to 9:10. I thought it was only about 8:30. Carried away, sorry.
Getting to recognise the words now.
Okay, we better find that one. So, having done well, probably. Makes it out sektare, sektare, it's the same word in a different word. Sorry, my bad. Clock and run away.
We made a start anyway,
We
on the Latin
maintain
list.
this.
So now we know the context. Need the answer.
So, Ananda, let's look at the Ananda
Yeah.
said
Yeah.
this.
Ananda said it.
Yeah, so Ananda was in the background of the story, and then the Buddha asked Ananda to recite this.
Oh, so Buddha, this was Ananda's wrote beside him. But be careful to pronounce his name Ananda, because if you pronounce it as Ananda, that means joyless. Right, so it negates his Ananda, full of joy. Should we just chant the blessing before we find out? Bhavatu Samangalam Rakhantu Sabadevata Sabha Buddhanubhavena Saraswati Bhavantu Te Bhavatu Samangalam Rakhantu Sabadevata Sabha Dhammanubhavena Saraswati Bhavantu Te Bhavatu Samangalam Rakhantu Sabadevata Sabha Sangham Bhavena Saraswati Bhavantu Te. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, James.
With the word sutti that we've just chanted, the sutti, the same sutti, as we had in the Mangala.
Sweet.
It's Swasti. Sorry on this one, listeners. We had several occasions where I lost signal and it cut out. Stop recording.